We're up to, let's go again from Perek Vav Mishnah Zayin, the 6th Perek, 7th Mishnah. So we mentioned before in the previous Mishnah that if a bundle,
6th chapter,
7th Mishnah. So in the 6th Mishnah we had mentioned, and 5th, that a bundle that's 2 saw is too big to be considered a bundle, and therefore it would not be considered Shikcha. In this Mishnah we say similarly, Kama, if you have standing grain, Sheish Basasayim, that's 2 saw.
I'm sorry, which number? Which one?
7.
7, chapter 7, Mishnah.
Chapter 6, Mishnah 7.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, got it. Comma?
Yeah, Kama. So if you have standing grain, Sheish Basasayim, that contains 2 saw of grain, Vishakcha, and he forgot to harvest it. In a Shikcha, again, that's too big, it's not going to be considered Shikcha. In Basasayim, if it's not 2 saw, if it's less than that, but it's a big enough piece of land that it should have grown 2 saw of wheat, but of grain, but something happened and it didn't produce well. Even if it's just bloated grain, empty husks or something like that, still, right? We look at it like fully developed barley, and if again, however much land, based on the quality of the land, if it should have produced 2 saw, about 2 bushels of barley, then if you forgot that large of an area to harvest, it would not be considered shikha. And hakama, standing grain, matzelas will save a bundle. So if you have standing grain that you didn't forget or that was too big to be considered forgotten, and you forgot a bundle next to it, you can go back to get the grain, and then you can take the bundle also. Besakama, or if you forgot some grain and didn't forget others, so if you can go back for the grain you didn't forget, you can go back and take the grain you also forgot. Ezi kamashi matzelas, how much standing grain do you need to have not forgotten about that it will save the bundles? Kol she'ena shikha, any amount that he didn't forget, afilu klach echad, even if it's literally a single stalk, as long as there's some unforgotten grain which he can go back for, then he can go back. Once he's going back, he can take anything that's there. And Mishnah tests, if your 2 saw are satvu akura, the sashino akura, you have 2 saw of wheat, but 1 saw you uprooted, you harvested, and the other you did, and the other is still attached to the ground. V'chein be'ilan, or by trees, v'hashum, or by onions, or garlic, or batzalim, or onions. Ein mitzdarf l'sasayim, you can't connect the 1 saw you did harvest to the 1 saw you didn't harvest and say, I have 2 saw. El shalaniyim heim, rather they go to the poor. Rabbi Yossi says, Im bas rishus ani be'emsa, if there's something that the poor people have the right to take in between the harvested grain and the unharvested grain, only then ein mitzdarfin. Only then do they not join together, v'imlav, but if not, harei lo mitzdarfin, then they would join together. Okay. Mishnah Yud. Tvua shenasnu l'shachas. Grain that you decide to use for hay, so you're going to cut it down before the seeds develop. Oil almuga, or you're going to use this grain as your string to bundle the other bunches. The same thing if you're making bundles of garlic, and you decide you're going to use these garlics to just bundle the other ones. And the bundles, all those. Oh, sorry, vagudas shum vatzalim, a separate thing, and the small little bundles that you make then of garlic or onions, ein lan shikcha. Those don't have shikcha.
So presumably they're laying on the ground because you're going to use them for a bundle.
Right. So the first, well, there are 3 separate things going on over here. So we'll just break them up. Right. The first category is grain that you decide you're going to use for hay. So then there's no, you're not going to use the grain for anything. So there's no, it's not considered grain. It's just grass, and it doesn't have shikha. Or a similar idea, if you decide you're going to use these stalks to bundle the other things, again you're deciding that the grain has no value to you, so they wouldn't have shikha. And the third one is these. Apparently, when they would make bundle their onions and garlic, they would make little bundles, and then they would gather them together in bigger bundles. So since you don't plan on transporting them in the little bundles, they don't have shikha yet till you get them into the bigger bundles. Okay. Another point, kalat tmunim bar is anything that's buried in the ground. Kagon haluf, vashum, vabitzalim, like garlic, onions, etc.
What's loaf?
Luf is also is like a leek or some other like bulb vegetable like onions or garlic. So those vegetables that grow under the ground, because I assume because he figures you forgot them because you just couldn't see them because they're underground. No, just because they grow below ground does not affect their shikcha status. And let's say someone's harvested at night, v'hamaimer, or he bundled at night, v'asumo, or a blind person, even though they couldn't see, still yeshlam shikcha. Anything they forget is still forgotten, even though they might be more likely to forget or miss stuff because they can't see. But if your intent is just to take the big ones and leave the smaller ones for them to grow bigger, then that's obviously not shikcha because you didn't forget anything. If someone says, I'm harvesting my field on the condition that anything I forget, I should be able to go back and take, and I'm not going to leave it for the aniyim, yesh lo shikcha doesn't work. You can't make a condition to get rid of the mitzvah of like a shikcha peah, and you still have to give it to the aniyim. Okay, we'll stop here.
Shkach.